Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to the Easton Lions' second annual, except for last year, celebration of Easton, where we honor the people and groups in our town that make Easton such a wonderful place to live. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. I'm Gary Fraden, tonight's MC. Tonight, we're going to be honoring three groups that got us through COVID: the schools, the business community, and the town administration. Honoring people is what Lions do. These groups, these three, worked magnificently through COVID when faced with the previously unimaginable situation of a global shutdown. How do schools educate kids? How do businesses stay open? How does the town provide services to the most needy among us? We'll get those answers tonight. The video, thanks to ECAT in the back of the room, of tonight's event is going to become part of our history. It's going to be in ECAT's archives forever as the history of COVID in Easton. Just imagine future historians looking at tonight's video as part of their research projects. I'd like to thank the small but mighty committee that put this evening's program together. Mark Vinicor, Andrew Parker, John Morgan, Lori Maver, Ron Hanverger, Matt Chiaffi, Michelle McGee, who we're going to hear from later this evening, Dale Carrister, we'll also hear from. All of you guys did a great job. And a special shout out to Bob Grella and Kathy Ferrone for generating the sponsorships that made this evening possible. A really great job, guys. I'd also like to thank this evening's sponsors: Cape Cod Lumber, our overall sponsor; our half-hour sponsors, Avalon, Cape Cod Lumber, Doug King, and the Northeastern Savings Bank; our silver sponsors, the Avery Lee Williams Trust, Rockland Savings Bank, and Weikart Realtors; and our bronze sponsors, the Bank of Easton, Collision Doctors, and ECAT. They're all listed on your placemats, either the front or the back. Make sure you flip them over so you can read everything. When you see any of these folks in town, please thank them. I'd also like to recognize the state leadership that's here tonight: Senator Walter Timulty, Representative Carol Doherty, and Auditor Suzanne Bump. Representative Doherty's in the back, Suzanne Bump's over here. Thanks, guys, for making time in your busy schedules to come here. And a special thank you to Stonehill College, our wonderful event partner, who provided planning and logistical assistance, catering, and tremendous help to the Lions throughout the planning of this event. Thanks, Father Dunning. Your crew was extremely easy to work with. All right, we're going to have some really great presentations this evening. That's all to come. We have a few surprises planned, so pay attention. And now it's time to hear from Jim Abatey, next year's Lions president, who has a few words. Jim's standing in for Andrew Parker, our current president, who's home with COVID. Jim, you're right here. Oh, good. You're hiding.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Andrew Parker, the president of the Easton Lions Club, wishes to express his sincerest apologies that he couldn't be here this evening with you, and he asked that I deliver these opening remarks for him. There was a lot to celebrate about Easton, and most of us do it in 100 small ways every single day. For the past 2 years, while the pandemic was a harsh reminder of the fragility of life, we have all negotiated a series of individual challenges. Now, at the end of this extended period of forced isolation, we have come together as a community. The combined actions of various groups around Easton were a reminder that ours is a shared experience, that we are interdependent and stronger for the community ties we develop. The people and the groups we are honoring tonight have a very visible presence in town, But there are other members of the community who provided essential services that you may not have noticed, but helped keep the social fabric of our community together. Many of the men and women who work in construction, manufacturing, fabrication, and assembly were classified as essential by the government, despite not having masks, wipes, or what was deemed essential PPE. When asked why he was not shutting these businesses down, Governor Baker essentially said, "The economy is closed. These people are the only ones generating any type of revenue." Take it as you will. No one knew that they were walking into on any certain day, but they kept going to work anyway. So this is a salute to those workers who got up every day and didn't miss a beat, like the people at Northeastern Machine, SP Enterprises, Vertec Construction, David Howe and Jay DiRenzo, Artie Paquin, Henry Narsajan and all the other contractors around town, Ken Fernandez and his crew at Fernandez Lumber, and of course the people at Shaw's, Roach Brothers, and Big Y. Tonight we honor the spirit and the resiliency of our town and hope that everyone continues to support the institutions and the merchants who have worked so hard to keep Easton worth celebrating. I would also like to recognize and thank the following: State Senator Walter Timulty, a great friend of the Lions Club, the town of Easton, and Stonehill College. Thank you, sir. And we met last week at an Eagle ceremony. And this is a little side note on my own. I actually met Mr. Timothy last week at an Eagle ceremony for Anthony Calisi, one of Easton's newest Eagle Scouts. State Representative Carol Doherty, who is a member of the Lions Club, and we love it, and also a great friend of Easton and of Stonehill College. Thank you. State Auditor Suzanne Bump, the hardest working constitutional office holder in the land, any land. And again, I might add, a member of the Lions. Select Board members Mark Lamb. Please stand when I say your name. Mark Lamb. Craig Bodger. Dottie Fulgenetti. Jennifer Stacy. And Jamie Stebbins. And Town Administrator Connor Reed. Thank you all for coming out. We hope you enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Okay. Jim, thanks. Thanks for stepping in at such short notice. Let's put tonight's events into context. Our first celebration of Easton, that was 2 years ago, our first annual, featured local social service organizations, including HOPE, the House of Possibilities. Katie Torino, HOPE's director, who's over here, presented then and will give us a short update tonight on HOPE. She's going to tell us how our celebration of Easton 2 years ago helped them and how the community helped HOPE during COVID. Katie.
Good evening. My name is Katie Torino, and I'm the Executive Director of the House of Possibilities, located right here on the campus of Stonehill College. I'm honored to be here tonight in person. It's been too long, and so much has happened since we last attended Celebration of Easton together. Some of you might remember House of Possibilities, or HOPE for short, from the video made by the Lions Club, giving a window into the ways we serve Easton community and beyond. For those of you who missed it, Hope provides disability services to over 300 children and adults annually from over 60 communities from across the state of Massachusetts. Since we were last together, Hope has grown a lot, almost doubling in size in a little over 2 years. We added 2 more locations, an embedded site at Jewish Vocational Services in downtown Boston, and a social enterprise at the Boston Public Market. We added new programs, the Career and Community Access Program, autism support services, including college navigation, and adult overnight respite. And we continue to be the only provider in the state for non-emergency children's overnight respite, often the only break that our families get from the care of their loved ones with a disability. Through COVID, we led the industry with our virtual services. We were one of the first providers in the state to reopen and return to full capacity. We facilitated the vaccination of over 160 staff members and their families, and we continue to maintain one of the highest employee retention rates among our peers. The list is long, and all that we have accomplished over the last 2+ years, we could not have done it without the support of the Easton community, organizations like the Lions Club, our local partners, and business owners. From the volunteers and the Stonehill Best Buddies who help out each week, to the funding available through local grants, to the sponsors and advertisers who support our annual Raise the Roof Gala. Each contribution of time, talent, and treasure helped us to not just survive COVID, but respond to our members' changing needs, keep our talented staff employed, and come out stronger than ever and ready to face the lingering effects of the pandemic. Today, thousands of individuals with disabilities across Massachusetts have still not returned to the programs they were part of before the pandemic. Parents in the room, can you imagine if your children had not returned to school yet? The events of the last year have culminated in a staggering workforce shortage in human services. Through COVID, we led the industry with our, that's the wrong page. Through Hope's growth and our innovative spirit, we are positioned to help overcome these challenges and will work together to respond to those in need, together with your continued support. Again, thank you to the Lions Club, Easton community members and beyond, for all that you have done to support the House of Possibilities and our mission to provide children and adults with disabilities and their families with a life-changing path to greater independence. Now, before I leave the stage, there is something that you can all help me with here tonight. Hope is one of 5 finalists in the state for this year's Red Sox Foundation Impact Awards. The organization with the most votes will receive a $10,000 grant. So using the QR code or the website on the signs at your tables, you can vote right now and every day until May 31st. Snap a photo of our sign, or we'll even send you a daily reminder if you text Vote Hope to the number listed on the sign. And a final plug, if you're enjoying this wonderful venue and the food as much as I am, come back and join us on June 9th right here at the Shield Center for Raise the Roof, our annual gala and auction. Tickets are available on our website. Again, thank you so much and enjoy your evening.
Thanks, Katie. I've already voted a few times, so thanks for the message. Now, John Morgan has an auction update and a surprise.
Gary, thank you very much, very much. I'm just going to stand here and hold my breath until you vote. I'm not kidding. Okay. We wouldn't be Lions if we didn't take the advantage of this opportunity and having these many wallets in the room to give you an opportunity to spend some of that money. And we've had some friends help us find opportunities on how to spend some of that money. I'm going to do my best tonight to channel the remarkable Avery Lee Williams. I was an auctioneer in training for many years in the Lions Club, so let's see how I do. We have the first of 4 auction items that are only available live in this room this evening. The first one comes at the extreme generosity of some of Easton's finest. Easton Police Department is offering Court for the Day. This will be a half-a-day event on a Monday with Detective Steve Hamilton, who's our court officer. And it's an event where the highest bidder will have an educational and interesting court experience with Detective Hamilton. Now, I know Mark Vinicor is going to bid on this, but he might want to go to a website I checked on. It's called truthfinder.com. Make sure there's no outstanding warrants on you before you do that. They'll let you in, but they won't let you leave. Be like the Hotel California. So that's the first item that we got this evening. You're going to have to determine what it's worth. So it's a day to attend a court session with our town's court officer, Steve Hamilton. And we appreciate the generosity of Chief Gary Sullivan and Court Officer Steve Hamilton for that. I'll be back a little later with a few more things. Thanks very much. You'd think with this monstrosity of a clock sitting right here next to me, I'd know that I had a little bit more time. So, do I have a bid on the court officer attending program for the day? Let's open this up. Can I have somebody offer me $100 for the bid? $100 bid. Dale Carrister, thank you very much for that, Dale. But we've got to go higher than that. Can I get somebody to give me $150? Do I have a $150 bid from this room? Gentleman right there in the blue shirt. Thank you very much. $150 is the high bid on this opportunity right now. That is to attend an Officer Steve Hamilton's visit to a courthouse for half a day on a Monday. $150 is the high bid. May I get a bid of $200 for this event? I'll take an offer of $155. Michelle, thank you so very much. You're not going to let Michelle get that for $155, are you? $175. You just outbid yourself, or did I not hear you right? Thank you, $175. Appreciate the bid. We have a high bid in the house of $175 for this event. Are we going to let Michelle take this for the day and $175? What is your number, sir? $200. We have $200 to the gentleman on the left side of the room. Thank you very much for that. $200. $200 high bid. We're going to let that sit out there for just a minute, Gary, unless you've got something else. And I do want to take this opportunity to remind the room that the online auction is open now until 8 p.m. So you can access that now from your mobile device and bid on the many things that we've got on the live auction. Dale and Gary will be telling you a little bit more detail later on about how those things came to be.
$200 sounds good to me.
I think $200 is a great number. We're going to let it go with that?
I think we will.
I have $200 going once. Dottie? $225, Dottie Fulgenetti. Thank you very much for that, Dottie. $225 is the high bid. Will someone give me $235? Suzanne, what's the number? $240 to Suzanne Pump. Thank you very much, Suzanne. Appreciate that. $240 is our high bid, friends. $240. We have $240 in the room. Do I have $250 in the room? $250 in the room. Thank you very much. $250. $250 sits as the high bid for this opportunity. Officer Steve Hamilton has donated this with Chief Sullivan's support to give us a half a day with one of the courts attending with our court officer here in Easton. $250 high bid at this point in time. $250 going once. $250 going twice. We're all happy at $250. Sold at $250. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll do it again. Thanks, John. Nice job. Thanks, audience. Nice job. Well done. And now, somewhat surprisingly, we're exactly on schedule, which I'm impressed. I get to turn things over to Leisha Cabral, superintendent of our schools, for the next portion to tell us what the schools did during COVID. This part of our celebration of Easton is sponsored by the Northeastern Savings Bank. Leisha.
Well, that timely program will not last long now that we have the mic. But we will do our very best. I am here with Assistant Superintendent Chrissy Pruitt. As Gary said, I am Superintendent Leisha Cabral. We are humbled and honored to be here this evening and share our last 2 years with you. We have some wonderful colleagues with us. I think the theme you're going to see tonight is teamwork, and that's what it's all about. We're going to start by just taking you a little back in time.
Moreau Hall Hawks, I find your lack of school disturbing.
Hawks, did you really think it was Darth Vader? It's not Darth Vader, it's me, Mr. Higgins. It is hot in that mask, oh my goodness. Hey, listen, I don't know if you know this, but today, May 4th, is Star Wars Day. And I figure every good principal should have a Darth Vader costume just lying around. I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt today. Good morning, Hawks. Hope you're having a good morning. Whew. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart and face the flag. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Bucket Fillers Pledge. 1, 2, 3. I promise to do my best every day to be a bucket filler, not to dip and to use my lid for myself and others at home, at school, and everywhere I go. Hawks, if you're a Star Wars fan like me, you know that today is Star Wars Day. It's a little known fact, I guess, that one of the main lines in Star Wars is "May the Force be with you." And because May the 4th sounds similar to that saying, we celebrate Star Wars Day today. I'm a big fan. I got introduced to Star Wars back when I was a kid. The first movie I saw was Return of the Jedi. My older brother Dan was a huge Star Wars fan, and he had seen Empire Strikes Back in the theater. And so I had all those Kenner toys originally and had a lot of fun playing. My favorite character was Luke Skywalker as a kid. I've come to appreciate Chewbacca being 6'10". Chewie is a little bit taller than me, but he seems like a really cool guy. We don't have any birthdays today, but I know that some of those Hawks out there and their parents are big Star Wars fans like Mr. Higgins, and I hope you enjoy today. Maybe you'll watch a movie or two. And don't forget, this week is also Teacher Appreciation Week, so what better way to appreciate our teachers than dressing up as Darth Vader? But tomorrow we have Teacher Appreciation Day. I'm going to give a special shout out to all of our teachers out there who we love and cherish and adore. And parents, maybe you're getting a glimpse of what it's like to be a teacher and a full-time parent at home at the same time, and you probably appreciate them even more now. But we'll be back tomorrow, Hawks, with more announcements. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Love you. Bye.
Mr. Higgins is just one of our phenomenal principals. He's at Moreau Hall, as you heard. All of our principals do morning announcements, and when school shut down, they took the opportunity to be super creative. That's one example. One of our principals still uses the visual remote morning announcements even now in all the classrooms at his school. You can tell how much our staff loves our kids. We work together, and that's an example of how we got creative when we weren't able to see them. We need you to remember that we're back in 2020 now, when the schools were completely shut down at first. We did not know exactly how long it was going to be. We were also unaware of what COVID was. There was certainly no vaccines or even tests to know if you had it. People were telling us it was in the air, it was on everything we touched. It was a scary time. And originally, we were supposed to be closed for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks was extended, and then it was extended again, and then it was shut down for good. We did not have the opportunity to prepare for such an extended closure at first. We did everything virtually, and we didn't know how to work virtually. We had some immediate needs that most people didn't know about, basic human needs of our kids and their families. We had to get them food. We had to get them medications that were in our schools because they couldn't get more medications at home for those who were taking them regularly. We delivered technology. We were walking to homes, carrying them, delivering them, leaving them on front porches for parents to pick up for their kids. We had to give them school supplies so that they could participate in art. All of these things forced us to come up with plans for remote learning that had never been done before. Programs like Seesaw, Google Classroom, Synchronous, Asynchronous, Google Meets, Zoom, things we all use every day now. We had no idea what they even were at the time. We put out a call to our staff. Remember, everything is shut down. We asked for help. Who wants to help us put together a program for our kids? We had so many volunteers, we ended up putting together 7 working groups, and we worked throughout the entire summer, every single day and night, on these 7 groups. We knew we would need facilities updates. We knew we would need to get supplies to families. Teaching and learning. We had a separate group for every grade band. Technology. How are we going to use it, and how are we going to get it to everyone? And we were still in the process of purchasing it. We were competing with everyone else in the state. Special education and English language learners, our most vulnerable populations. How could we make sure they got the important services that they needed? And the social emotional wellness of our staff and our students going through this unheard of pandemic. Finance and personnel. People were now able to physically return to work. We had faculty who were sick, families who had sick children and weren't able to participate even remotely, and communications and outreach. How could we get all of this out to the community and all of our families? When I talk to our other administrator colleagues around the state, they are absolutely floored that we had help at all. Everyone else mostly did it on their own. No one else had over 160 volunteers, staff, parents, students. All 5 of our school committee members, Michelle Durant, Jen Starr, Nancy DeLuca, Jackie Wiseman, and Caroline O'Neill. The first 3 ladies are here this evening. The other 2 are watching. Hi, ladies. They are so supportive of our students. No one has a school committee helping plan throughout the summer to get ready for remote learning. This was just the beginning. We set up some guiding principles for all of our groups. We knew there were things we had to focus on because it was so easy to get distracted. Staff and student safety were paramount, and they remain so today. That's one thing we wouldn't compromise on. Education must be provided with equity of access, no matter what they had at home, no matter who they had supporting them. We had to develop relationships and provide rigorous learning experiences for all of our almost 4,000 children. We had to monitor carefully and adjust when necessary, and we adjusted often. And knowing all along that no plan would fully replicate the classroom or the school in-person experience. We had to come up with 5 different phases and 3 models. The state didn't know what September would look like either. And so they had us create education all over again in 3 different ways. What were we going to do if it was completely remote? What were we going to do if it was completely in person to keep everyone safe? And what would we do with what ultimately happened? Hybrid. And what is hybrid? And so we had to come up with plans that had to be accepted by the state. All of this happening in that one summer. One of the things that we worked on, Miss Jeanne Baxter will discuss.
My name is Jeanne Baxter. I am the literacy coach reading specialist at Easton Middle School, and I'm happy to recognize the Grab and Go program and the food service workers for Easton Public Schools. Our number one priority when schools shut down was the health and wellness of our students. Easton Public School administration, teachers, and staff stepped up and distributed bagged breakfast and lunches to EPS families. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, families drove up behind the Richardson Olmsted School, and volunteers placed meals into vehicles to limit contact. From March 16, 2020, through June 15, 2020, we provided 4,436 meals. Families who were unable to get to RO had meals delivered to their homes by EPS volunteers. We were also able to donate grocery store gift cards and boxes of fresh produce to families in need. The Grab and Go pickup system, led by Ann Weintraub, principal of Center School, worked so well that we used it as a means to connect with our students and families for several other things, including Chromebook distribution, monthly food drives, and contactless kindergarten registration. Self-Help Incorporated also donated literacy and craft activity bags to help keep students busy at home. During the hybrid model, students and families continued to receive free breakfast and lunch each day. During the course of the hybrid model, there were 58,695 breakfast meals served and 132,781 lunch meals, with approximately 2,600 additional meals during the summer. Food service staff greeted and offered breakfast to every single student at each school in the morning when they entered their school building, and then again at lunch as they left to go home for the day. While at school, student meals were enjoyed outside whenever possible. Our food service staff, led by Roberta Tamasanis, made the impossible possible. Meals distributed so far this school year total 295,144. And at the risk of sounding too much like McDonald's, all in all, close to 500,000 meals served. My son wanted me to say, but thank you, food service, staff, and volunteers.
Also part of our team are invaluable custodians. Again, remember, we weren't sure if tactile or aerosol was worse or better. We had to purchase air purifiers for every single classroom, space, office in every single one of our buildings. We bought electrostatic sprayers, which we never even knew existed before. We had to put out hand sanitizer and sanitize desks and areas in large rooms like gymnasiums. Furniture had to be moved. We couldn't use tables any longer. All children had to be 6 feet apart from one another. We had to purchase desks so that we could separate them. And the separation of the desks took up so much space, we had to take all other furniture out of the rooms. Teachers' desks, bookcases, manipulatives, everything went into storage. Mrs. Pruitt will explain how we prepared our teaching and learning.
Good evening. So during the summer of 2020, we were able to design or redesign education. The educational design was established, but after that summer, we had 10 days. The state had given us 10 days. School was delayed for 10 days to educate our staff on this new model. We were beginning the school year with a hybrid model where half of the class was staying at home to learn remotely while the other half was staying in school, and they would alternate days. And this was to minimize the number of students in the classroom at the time. Not only did we have to educate on how to actually work the technology, how to implement this new model, but we were also educating our staff on the social emotional needs, the trauma that our students were coming to us with from the pandemic, as well as the racial tensions that were paramount throughout our country during that time. So Jennifer Tantillo, our Oliver Ames English teacher, will be sharing a little bit more about that.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Tantillo, and I am an English teacher at Oliver Ames High School. I am honored to be able to speak to you about the extraordinary individuals who planned and participated in the 11 days of professional development that helped prepare our staff for the opening of our schools in the fall of 2020. The Professional Development Committee, a group of 27 dedicated individuals led by Chrissy Pruitt, met several times throughout the summer of 2020 to put together a schedule of activities that enabled all staff members to learn, reflect, collaborate, and plan for what we all knew would be an extraordinarily challenging year. Most of the instructional sessions were facilitated by staff members who volunteered to share their expertise in the areas of technology, social emotional learning, COVID-19 protocols, and social justice. In addition, the committee included a number of Ed Camp sessions that enabled staff members to collaborate with colleagues around topics that they found particularly relevant or interesting. Finally, the committee made sure that there was time for staff members to plan and prepare for the first few weeks of school. Those 11 days were extraordinary for a number of reasons, but most importantly, they redefined our idea of what professional development is. As we worked together to prepare for the coming school year, we found an invaluable resource in each other. The pandemic compelled us to think about how we could prepare staff for the challenges of hybrid learning, but ultimately, it taught us that we have a lot to learn from each other. We are all better educators, counselors, administrators, healthcare providers, and support staff as a result of that experience, and that will benefit our students for years to come. Thank you.
So we also have a short video of two of our teachers explaining the hybrid teaching model.
Hello, I'm Kristen Foote.
And I'm Kim Krakta.
And we're grade 2 center school teachers. Our hybrid year was one for the books. Professional, veteran, and expert teachers tailor their lessons for teachable moments. That year, we could not do this for many reasons. In order to be effective, we had to plan at least 2 weeks or more in advance so that the copies could be made, distributed for each cohort. Many teachers had to come up with new plans for how to keep that information easily accessible to their learners. There was no time for spontaneity. For those of us who like to vary our teaching, this was a complete and utter challenge. We also had to tailor our lessons for all learners online and in school at the same time. Teaching two in person and online was beyond challenging all the time. Rolling around a cart while teaching is never ideal. What helped was collaborating and teamwork with grade level colleagues to help ease the burden.
It's that teamwork that was the defining factor in Easton Public Schools' success. For most teachers, school is a second home, and hopefully for students too. So as the only elementary teacher working from home, I had created a classroom in my guest bedroom. As many teachers did, I proceeded to work 16 hours a day, 8 with my students, including their lunch dates and social supports, and 8 with parents through support emails and video chats, but mostly for planning, that planning and instructional time, even as a veteran teacher having to create new resources from the ideas I've already been teaching from. Our center school grade level team met consistently. Our district grade level met bi-weekly. Our principal right up to our superintendent were on speed dial, all of us working together for solving problems and sharing solutions. This extended to students and parents in the at-home learning situation. This collaboration and planning time has created an ownership for the whole learning community.
Hello, my name is Heather Lewis. I'm a third grade teacher at Richardson Olmsted Elementary School. And I'd like to speak just for a few minutes about relationship building with our students and those classroom connections that are vital to creating our school and classroom climate. So the abrupt change in learning environments in March of 2020 demanded a complete rework of how we could be successful in continuing those relationships and connections. On this slide here, you see a poem that represents a bit of what our students, our elementary level students, were feeling, which was a loneliness and frightened. And we worked very hard to step up to the plate as teachers and do our best to not let those relationships that we had built deteriorate, and thought outside of the box about how to continue those relationships. And on our next slide, we have just a few photos to celebrate some of those moments. So you can see that birthdays were still celebrated even though we were all at home. The student even said, "I wish you a happy birthday even though we can't leave the house." And you see a photo of our final pickup day when we were actually able to see students in the circle of Richardson Olmsted School and deliver materials, and then letters as well written to their future grade level teacher, minus of course the in-person ability to see each other face to face. The following year, our year of hybrid learning, some students were completely remote. Many attended 2 days in person and 3 days at home, while other students were at school 4 days a week. These varying groups and challenges of building relationships while distanced, masked, and only in person for a few days continue to make the relationship building and classroom connections challenging. And once again, teachers pivoted and did their very best to continue those relationships and connections. So again, just a few photos where you can see our students working, so students who are in school being able to collaborate on Google Meet with students who were at home to work as partners, play math games, see each other's work, communicate. As well, you see another photo that exhibits our morning meetings. So no matter where you were part of morning meeting to start each day with your classroom teacher. Again, birthdays celebrated even wherever you were, home or school. And then just a snippet of a teacher and student working one-on-one with safety measures in place. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and share my insights into how our teachers work to develop student relationships and classroom connections during the pandemic, no matter where we were. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Corinne McCarthy. I am Department Chair of Physical Education, Health and Wellness. When our schools shut down in early March, we had to find ways to help our students move, keep their minds healthy, and eat healthy diets while home in quarantine. Our PE and health teachers were creative in providing monthly challenges, exercise menu logs, virtual gym options, live stream yoga on Instagram, and lots of resources about managing stress and overall wellness. Students participated through Google Classroom, social media posts, and parent guardians sending photos of teachers of students participating in the activities. We also had virtual field day in 2020 for the K-5 students where they were to participate. The K-5 physical education teachers were amazing. We planned this whole thing. The kids brought pictures. We also had a virtual digital photo book that was shared to all the families. During the summer of 2020, I was committed to finding ways to incorporate physical education for the fall for all of our students. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I felt our students would need to move and learn the importance of taking care of all areas of their wellness. We knew that the pandemic had played a role on their mental health, and teaching them strategies in class to help would be so beneficial. We had many restrictions with cleaning and distancing, but we did it, and we did it well. Thank you to Dr. Cabral and Mrs. Pruitt for supporting me and keeping physical education intact during the hybrid model. And then these were just some creative activities that happened during our time. We had putt-putt, backyard games. I also was able to create the backyard games online so they could have it at home. Thank you.
Kristin Shea, our art department chair, was not able to be here this evening, but she did share some words. Despite school buildings being closed in March 2020 for the foreseeable future, the EPS art teachers reminded students that art is all around them if they take a moment to observe. Without standard measures and unsure of each child's types of supplies they had at home, lessons were developed around an abundance of flexibility and imagination. Daily challenges were assigned, such as found object color wheel scavenger hunt around students' homes. These projects were excellent ways to get families involved in the art making and thinking process, as well as the student artists. At the K-5 level, a menu of activities were provided with video instructions for students to choose from, depending on the supplies they had on hand at home. The main goal for students K-12 was to continue to creatively problem solve and imagine. Creativity was not canceled. Students created thoughtful and inspiring artworks across all grade levels. Even concepts in graphic design were able to be covered. If a student didn't have paint, we even tried painting with coffee and tea. Being back in school with hybrid days called for each student to have a supply kit with the necessities for making art independently at home. Over the summer, art teachers prepared and created supply kits for all students, even going above and beyond and creating additional supply kits as projects progressed throughout the school year. Despite being in a pandemic, art students were eager to be back in the art spaces and creating. Students developed inspired work over the course of the first half of the school year of 2020-2021, resulting in amazing digital art portfolios from K-12, several regional and national awards for their hard work from the Scholastic Art Awards and Congressional Art Competition. 5 Oliver Ames artists were recognized by the Massachusetts Art Educators Association as amazing emerging artists and received top honor from the association.
Good evening, Easton Lions Club. My name is Jeff Benson. I'm the chair of the music department here at Oliver Ames High School. I supervise music K-12 for the district. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for your acknowledgement. The last 2 years have been unprecedented. The music department has had to deal with and is still dealing with restrictions because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic that really threatened to put what we do in danger. And the members of my department, both the staff and the students, really rose to those challenges and found new ways to adapt what we were doing and how we were teaching students and how we were offering experiences in such a way that we were able to come out on the other side of the situation with the program in very, very good shape. And so rather than continue to talk to you about it, I'm going to turn this video over to the drum major of the 2021 Division IV New England Championship Oliver Ames Marching Band, Mia Reinhardt, who's going to take you on a tour of the department through some interviews and talk about what we were able to achieve over the last 12 months. Throughout the pandemic. Thank you so much.
You know, I do have to say, since last year we were performing outside, we started outside, came to the inside 10 feet apart, and you know, this year we've just grown so much since last year. We've competed, we won gold, state finals, now we're doing the Hat Show in Boston. Like, each person has really just, you know, evolved more as a player.
How has show choir changed throughout the pandemic?
Before the pandemic, we had a huge show choir. We participated in the large mixed division. We were really successful. We were getting gold, and we took a big hit because a lot of people graduated and we didn't have the resources to pull up from the middle school as much, and the middle school show choir suffered as well from that because we couldn't get everybody up, but we're very excited to be able to perform this year.
How has the OA musical department changed and survived the pandemic?
So since we had a whole year off, we got a lot of new people this year, and a lot of these people want to keep doing the musical, and then their friends saw the musical and want to keep doing the musical. And so it's like really great to see new involvement in like a new age almost of the music department.
Middle school music classes are really formative and impactful, and a lot of the middle schoolers in our music classes have these amazing experiences and make lifelong friendships which encourage them to continue on into high school. When you reach middle school, you have opportunities to join after-school ensembles that you haven't had the opportunity to join yet. Things like show choir, jazz band, chamber orchestra, marching band. And we are so proud of our middle schoolers for overcoming the challenges that the pandemic faced, because for many of them, they had never performed in a concert setting before, and so their first experience with that was entirely virtual. But flash forward to this year when they have the opportunity to do so, and they are just thriving. They're making music, they sound amazing, and we are just so incredibly proud of them for continuing to persevere throughout the challenges and difficult times of the pandemic.
I really love doing band, and nothing brings me more joy than playing my instruments and being with all the people in the band, getting to know new people, making a lot of new friends. So I think that's why I decided to stay with band in high school.
And the reason why I continued playing the violin in high school is because I love playing the violin. I think it's very nice to know how to play a musical instrument and be involved with like the musical community.
Awesome.
In marching band at our first football game, there was this one part in one song. We turn around and we just play our faces off. We just play really loud, and the crowd was like screaming and everything. It was really fun, and it just felt like good to be back doing marching band again.
Oliver Ames Sr. and drum major and interviewer. Mia Reinhardt is here with Jordan Etow, who's an 8th grader at Easton Middle School.
Thank you so much. Many teachers have told me throughout my life that character is what you do when nobody else is watching. And since March 2020, the music department has exemplified this philosophy in a very literal way. When you think about music, you probably think of performance, but throughout the pandemic, the music department and its students had to find a way to make music happen without any promises of performance. Despite having literally no one to watch in some cases, the music department thrived and showed the utmost perseverance. During the 2020-2021 school year, when we found out that we might not have any live performances, our true character became more important than ever. The most important quality of the music department is the family atmosphere that we cultivate. The people that I have played or sang with in band, orchestra, and choir are more than teammates. They're people who I can always count on and who know that they can always count on me. The true character of the Easton Music Department is that of a family, and families always work to overcome adversity together. It would be easy for me to stand here and list all of the achievements of each and every one of our ensembles. It would take a while, and most of the people in this room probably would forget what I've said before I've finished saying it. However, our success isn't measured by achievements. It never was. If we had measured our success solely through awards and performances, we would not have had the opportunity to learn and grow throughout the pandemic. Instead, our success is measured by a philosophy that is ultimately at the core of everything we do. Better every time. That means every time we get on the stage, take the field, walk into the choir room, arrive at an audition, play at a festival, pick up our instruments, we strive to improve at least one thing. And trust me, there's always something to improve. Our music department perseveres. We overcome adversity. We showcased our true character. We never had to come back from the pandemic because we never really left. We are a community that encourages each other and looks out for each other. Ultimately, the students' amazing work ethic and willingness to stick it out with one another is what caused the music to survive the pandemic. Thank you so much.
As you can imagine, our amazing nurses got us through one of the most difficult medical times in history. They were not only updating us and working closely with the Board of Health, but they educated us on how to ensure the safety of our students and ourselves when no one really knew the answers. Our nurses spent countless hours, all times of the day, answering questions from parents and educating them on COVID-19, and they still do today. We will forever be grateful for their dedication to all of us. But what about all those fun other activities that happen when you're in school, like Spirit Week or Homecoming? We were able to recreate some of those virtually. You can see here is an example of our virtual Spirit Week. We would post, the OA Student Council would post, we'd have pajama day, the office, laundry, exercise, and yes, we participated too. I hope those photos still aren't out there. But we all did it together, and that was the key. There were also a lot of fun at-home activities and challenges that students could do with their parents. We created rock gardens with inspirational messages, and they're still around our schools today. Arts and crafts and read-alouds with staff members, neighborhood bear hunts and storytelling. All of this helped to keep us connected. We were even able to hold the Oliver Ames class of 2020 graduation outside and socially distanced. It was a beautiful ceremony. It wasn't at Frothingham, but we didn't focus on those things. We focused on all the things that it was. It was all of us coming together. It was all of us sharing. And if you haven't seen the speeches, I hope they're still available on ECAT. Our students were inspirational about their resilience and that they weren't looking at this as a negative and all the things that they did without. Rather, how we all rose as a group, as a family, and did it all together. Our sports teams as well. Imagine playing hockey or basketball with a mask on and lowering it when you were running and putting it up again when you came against an opponent. This is what our athletes were up against. But again, they did it, and they did it very well. Our Oliver Ames Student Council kept the spirit alive. Again, they had their Spirit Week. We had a faculty talent show. They created gingerbread houses at the holidays. Here's one example of how creative our faculty can get.
Hi, this is Miss Kaufman, and I'm going to show you my new talent, which I believe is going to be in the Olympics, Winter Olympics. It's called kayaking on snow. Of course, it's similar to bobsledding, so I have a team here helping me push off. And I'm going for the Olympic world record, so here we go.
14.0 seconds.
Yeah, new world record, Olympic world record by Miss Kaufman. Woo! Hi, this is Miss Kaufman.
Every time I watch that video, I laugh. I could see it multiple times. In addition to supporting individual students with their day-to-day emotional needs, school adjustment counselors, school psychologists, and guidance counselors from all grade levels work together to help our students feel connected to the school community during this isolating time, making sense of this new world and the psychological impact it was having on students and staff, assess student needs, and advocate for relevant accommodations and supports for struggling students. This slide is an example of the district-wide effort to keep us connected as a community and shine a light on hope and positivity. We had an EPS positivity website that students could go on and they could see pictures of their classmates, of their teachers, of other staff members from their school. That was absolutely remarkable, and it's still live today, so if you'd like to go on our website and check it out, you can. Our emotional support staff from grades pre-K through grade 12 met regularly to share observations and trends, look at the needs of our students and staff, and recommend expert speakers for district-wide professional development, create tools and gather data about students' perspectives, and really help to support each other. Counseling staff across the district realized that they were seeing universal trends in students' attendance, academic performance, and levels of emotional stress. This data was consistent with statewide trends and statistics. We realized that this new learning model was challenging many of our students beyond their developmental skill levels, and that isolation and other changes related to the pandemic were causing increasing levels of anxiety and depression. Administrators and teachers embraced this accommodation plan, which offered both structure and the flexibility to individualize supports and help students be more successful.
A few words about our technology. Steve Searcy, teacher at Easton Middle School, and Maura Richards put together a few words about this. Students were able to make use of many different online tools like Google Classroom, but also in math, they were able to have manipulatives and access to websites such as Desmos and Khan Academy. In English, they could strengthen their writing and digital literacy skills. They also benefited from more direct and immediate feedback on their work. Due to federal stimulus funding, we were able to get one-to-one Chromebooks, something that schools take years to implement. We did it in one summer. I don't know if you can see this picture on the far side. That's literally Chromebooks lined up in our gymnasiums. It's one example of what we say we had to give every student a computer. You have to keep in mind, we also had to open all the boxes, put them all together, load all the software, put in the firewalls for every single device. That's just one example of the behind the scenes of what giving out technology looks like. This also allowed students now who are absent to get work done at home. We post assignments on Google Classroom. It's something we're taking with us. There's a theory that it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Well, Easton students became more adept and technologically advanced due to the need for online learning. This has prepared them for the new shift in not only learning but the job market, as many colleges even today make use of online and hybrid platforms. We also had community connections. Much like our relationships with our students, this has been bonding for colleagues as well. We have a collective experience of teaching in a pandemic. It helped bring us together. More than ever, we relied on the teaming model. At the middle school has a teaming model, and both students and departmentally, they work together to develop lessons and remote learning. Hybrid learning continued, and they collaborate to this present time. Much like our students, we were all in each other's houses virtually for these meetings, and we got to see different sides of our colleagues. As you can see, even this slideshow was created collaboratively with the skills we had to learn from the pandemic. All of the faculty you saw here today, and even the students, were able to meet remotely to discuss and then create these slides individually. We never met once. Tonight was the first night we've done this together. How'd we do? We shared these slides and then put them together in what we hope is a cohesive presentation. This would have been unthinkable to us just 3 years ago. Kristin Foote will share some parent perspective.
Hello. Hello. A parent had submitted this to me. So my child had a teacher who could only be described as unbelievable.
This teacher is her, by the way.
Sorry, it was me. I'd hear her teaching when he was home for his remote days. You would have thought she taught like this her entire life. She was a resource for parents, teachers, and children alike in navigating the technology. She was engaging to all students during the same lessons, whether they were at home or in front of her. The work assigned to students was incredibly organized and easy to follow. I've always been a huge supporter of teachers and volunteered as much as I could in the schools. When I found out that a student teacher would be joining the class, even I questioned it. I really didn't understand how this would be the best time. My child's teacher was very happy to discuss my concerns and explain that she wanted to demonstrate to every teacher, especially new teachers, how you can teach through everything. As long as you stay adaptable and are able to communicate, a teacher can succeed at anything. I was so proud that our school system enables our current teachers to do what they believe in and to support new educators in learning how to be their best. Was it a perfect year? Of course not. Would I choose remote, hybrid over in person? Never. But do I believe our superintendent, school committee, and teachers gave more than they ever believed they could? 110%. There was no doubt every single decision was made after full consideration for all the students and faculty. Any chain is only as strong as the weakest link. They made sure every link was accounted for. For that, I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you.
We want to make sure that we thank everyone who made this possible. All of our 160 volunteers, our 604 employees, our 3,500 students, all of the families, but also it was almost seamless how our work together with the town administration, police, fire, DPW, and oh my goodness, the health department. I have a stronger connection with the members of the health department than my own family. I certainly saw them as more than I saw my own family. It was truly, truly a team effort. Thank you all for your support.
You know, Leisha and Michelle and Chrissy, I've often read in organizational theory textbooks that organizations take the personality of the people on top in charge. And when I hear the positivity and creativity and teamwork expressed by all of your presenters tonight, I think you guys are doing a hell of a job. I really are. Wow, great. All right. Okay, now let's thank the Northeastern Savings Bank for sponsoring that section of this evening. We want to thank Doug King for sponsoring the next section, and I think John has something to, a way for you to give us some money.
Gary, I'm a little worried if you spend your time reading organizational textbooks. We need to talk. I love living in this town. A statement and then a question. The statement is 100% of the money raised by the Easton Lions Club goes back into our community through the charitable works we do. That was the sales pitch made to me 28 years ago by Paul Hannigan, and that hooked me. So if you've not been asked to join the Easton Lions Club, the door is open to you. And now the question. What opened in 1787 and has a 23-karat gold hat? Anyone? Suzanne, can you tell us? There you go, State House. That's our first winner. And here's why I asked that question. We have, through the generosity of Easton resident Suzanne Bump, been given a very unique gift, and I'm going to auction it off. It is a State House tour and lunch for two. The lunch is at the UMass Club, actually. Pretty nice digs. And that tour is going to be guided by none other than State Auditor Suzanne Bump. So Suzanne, are they letting you back in the State House now after that January debacle? Okay, that's good, just want to check. So here's an opportunity for you to bid on an event that's going to give you some serious bragging rights. A guided tour by none other than the State Auditor, Suzanne Bump, and then lunch at the UMass Club. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start the bidding out at $200. $200 to spend the good part of the day with Suzanne. That's a bargain in and of itself. And then lunch at the UMass Club. And I guess then there's going to be some behind-the-scenes things there, Suzanne? Oh, I'm seeing a nod over here. Okay. Free parking. That's worth $190. So truly remarkable event, a memory maker of an event. Who's going to give me $200 to get this up and walking here? Lori, thank you so much for getting the bidding going at $200. We have a $200 bid over on the right side of the room. Thank you, Lori Maver, for opening with that bid. I need a bid of $250 to top Miss Lori Maver. I see Mr. Fred Ames at $250. Thank you, Fred, for that bid. $250 to spend some time with Suzanne Bump. That's a gem all on its own. Thank you very much, Fred, for $250. But Fred, we're not going to let you have it for $250 because I know there's a $300 bid in the room. Who's going to give me $300 for the bid to spend the time with Suzanne Bump and touring the State House? Do I hear $300 in the room? $300? I see $300 in the back of the room. Thank you so very much. $300 in the back of the room. Obviously a big Suzanne Bump fan right back there in the back of the room. $300 is the high bid. I have a $300 bid in the back of the room. Who will give me $350 for this price? Fred Ames. Thank you, Fred. $350 for the bid. Fred obviously wants this lunch. It hasn't been to the UMass Club recently, apparently. $350 to Fred Ames. Are we going to let Fred have this for $350? No, we are not going to let Fred have this for $350, are we? $350 is the high bid. May I have a bid of $400 from the room, please? $400 from the room. Do I have a bid of $400 from the room? Who will give me $375 to keep Fred from enjoying a lunch at the UMass Club? I see you. $375 back there, Craig Barger. Obviously a man who knows Fred will not enjoy a lunch at the UMass Club. $375. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. $375 is the high bid in the back of the room with Craig Barger. Do I have a $400 bid? Fred Ames at $400. We have $400 in the room. I think we have some competition going here. I know Craig's going to be serious when I see him put the hat on. The hat is not on, so I don't know. Well, he's going for the hat, folks. Do I have a $400 bid? $400 bid from Craig Barger. $400 high bid in the room right now for the tour of the state. Forgive me. Do I have $425 then? Craig, $425? $425 is the high bid. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate you correcting my math and my poor memory. $425 is the high bid. Do I have a $450 bid in the room for this? Fred, $450. Thank you, Mr. Ames. $450 high bid in the room at this point. Thank you very much. We've got some activity on this. $450 high bid. Are you all in? Are you all satisfied? Have I got everything I can out of you for this remarkable event? $450. We have $450 going once. $450 going twice. Thank you, Mr. Ames. $450. Enjoy your time with Suzanne.
Well done, John. Next, we have an introductory comment from Dale Carrister, who's going to explain how this year's Lions auction is different from other Lions auctions. But just before he starts talking, I want to remind everybody about our sponsors for this evening: Cape Cod Lumber, Avalon, Doug King, the Northeastern Savings Bank. Our silver sponsors: Avery Lee Williams Trust, Rockland Savings Bank, Weichert Realtors. The bronze sponsors: the Bank of Easton, Collision Doctors, ECAT, Stonehill for entertaining us and partnering with us in this wonderful facility. And now, the erudite, sagacious, and ever-eloquent Dale Carrister.
Woo! All righty. 'Twas some 35 years ago, and all through the Lion's house, there was some worry, things about which to grouse. We need to raise more funds in order to help those in need. Let's come up with some new ideas. Let's do this deed. Hey, I know what we should do, said Lee. Let's run an auction for 5 hours on live TV. We'll try it out and then we'll see. How hard can this possibly be? The Easton businesses got wind and offered their support. Their donations came flying in for things of all sorts. Dr. Halverson offered some braces, and Buddies gave 3 pizzas a week. Cars from Bourne's Auto, a dumpster from Narsasian, all that we could seek. For no matter what was donated, please let me now tell, there was nothing that Lee Williams could not sell. At the high school, yes, a moment for Lee. At the high school, at Olmsted Richardson, and at Stonehill, the live televised auction was a hit and most definitely fit the bill. Banks of phones run by high school students, parents, and friends. The bids were called in, and to the auction boards did they send. The daisies, the brownies, the scouts, they all were trying, running up those bid slips to all of those gray-haired lions. A community coming together, a commitment to help others, the kids, the students, the clubs, the fathers, and the mothers. The auction has evolved, as most things do. With internet and cell phones, we went online too. Times have changed and the auction boards have been put to rest, but then new things are born and are put to the test. 2 years ago, the celebration of Easton was then spawned, like 35 years ago, a new day, a new dawn. We met at Olmsted Richardson and showcased the community organizations, for there are so many in town offering their time, their help, and their loving sensations. Little did we know on that first weekend of March of 2020, the challenges that we were soon to face would be so plenty. No sooner than a week after that first celebration did end, things were shut down, uncertainty and fear. How do we fend? And yet in times of need, when there was no blueprint for this Easton ship of state, our educators, our administrators, our DPW, our first responders, and our businesses all stepped up to the plate. How do we operate? How do we keep our employees in those uncharted times and in those rough seas? You went above and beyond, you kept moving forward and did whatever it took. We are extraordinarily grateful Easton was open wherever one looked. Given all that the businesses have faced over the past 2 years, for 2020, we kept the legions of auction solicitors from coming near. Instead, we reached out to the community at large and asked what they could do to support our businesses by buying items or gift cards, whether many or few. For decades, our businesses have been there to provide whatever we might be calling for, not just for the Lions, but to help whoever might be knocking at their door. You've always been there to make Easton what it is with all that you do. So now at the celebration, we reach out and we say thank you, and thank you. With that being said, we're now going to show a video about one of those businesses who had to face these extraordinary times. Many of you know Paint, Rust, and Pixie Dust over right near Main Street, so we'll get that rolling now. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the business before COVID. How did you come to be, and how'd you pick the name?
Oh, well, well, first off, I was working as an administrative assistant, and I needed something more creative, so I ended up opening a shop. This particular building became available when the hardware store closed, so I contacted them, and they liked my idea, so that's how this came about. And then the name, we sat around on a Sunday afternoon watching football, my family and I, just writing down all kinds of names, trying to figure out what to do, what to have for a name. And about a week later, my niece texted me, Paint, Rust, and Pixie Dust.
March 2020, you hear the news.
Yes.
What happens?
You're like, what do I do? So one of the girls in the shop actually texted me and said, I made a few face masks. Want to see how they'll do on the website? And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Bring them in. I took some pictures. Maybe there were 10 of them. I took some pictures, sent them to my sister to post on Facebook, and my phone would not stop ringing. The messages and the phone calls of people wanting masks was unreal. So that just kind of created a new little niche for us because we didn't know what else we were going to do. So we had 3 girls up in our classroom sewing.
Yep.
Making masks, like me down here on the
Kids' masks,
phone.
men's masks.
Yes.
Yep.
We had people
Sports
call
masks.
us and say, my husband has a really big head. can you make one a little bigger? And so we would make custom ones for people who had smaller heads, big heads, whatever.
Yeah.
We would do whatever
People who
we
like
needed.
ballet, people who like soccer.
We had pretty much every different theme you could think of. And I would just man the phones and leave them at the front door for people, and people would come by and grab it, and that was pretty awesome.
Yep.
The other thing we did was take-home kits. So basically, we didn't have workshops, obviously, so it was a take-home kit for them to do at home with their kids or with themselves or whatever. And it would be a sign, or we had another one that was like a grill master, had some hooks for your grilling tools and things like that.
I think you did a birdhouse.
Yes, we did a birdhouse. My dad made those.
Yeah, I think I have one for Mother's Day that says "You are my sunshine." It had a sunflower
exactly.
on it. Yeah. And how did those do?
Those did great.
Yeah.
Again, that was like a drop, leave it at the front door. We did a little bit of delivery for people who wanted it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would run around and drop off pieces to people. But those did really, really well as well. I was, at one point, I had to take the phone off the hook.
Really?
Because I couldn't take a breath. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yes,
That's really good.
It was really good. I was grateful, again, for the community to, rally and kind of, help us out through this time, because I don't know what we would have done if we had to close for that entire time.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for letting us come in today. Thanks for being such a good friend to the Lions.
Anytime.
And
we love it.
I'm so glad that you made it through COVID. And you feeling good on the other side?
Yes, so far so good.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you feel fulfilled?
Absolutely.
How about hopeful?
Very hopeful.
Yeah.
Very hopeful.
Yes, that's so good. Like, do you have a feeling like if I can make it through that, like, we're good?
I have to be able to make it through anything. I made it past the 5 years, and I made it through COVID. Right?
Those are the two big business goals, right?
What else, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So thank you so much for letting us come in today. Thanks for all that you do for the Lions and the community. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd now like to introduce Ed Bass and Josh Peach of the Eastern Chamber of Commerce, who can do a far better job than I of explaining the challenges our businesses have faced. Gentlemen.
How's everybody doing? This is the first time I'm actually speaking with -3 minutes, so let me know how I do. The damn clock over there is really screwing me up. Couple of rules. What? -5. Couple of rules. If you have to go to the bathroom, please get up and go. I know you've been sitting for a little while. If you don't, that means you haven't been out back to see my two new friends often enough at the bar that helped me put this presentation together, the bartender out back. So feel free to get a drink if you need to. Go to the bathroom. It's okay. And this is what I put together. They just said something's missing, and we all know Lee Avery Williams is missing, and that's a great loss from someone that's been living in Easton since 1983. I was born here and then came back, which was a great honor to be. Doug King is our sponsor, because when I came back with my mom, who was a single mom, and there weren't many of those back then. And the first person we met was Doug King, and he had provided some of the only housing that people could probably afford that were low to middle income. And I got to live in Rolling Pines for a couple of years, so I'm grateful for Doug in many ways. But Lee, over the course of the 35 years of the auction, it started out with a remote control as a kid, right? Because we had the Cablevision boxes where you had to push the buttons. And Lee had some great sayings, and I think that's why the bidding hasn't gotten high enough. So I wrote them down. My 5 top over the 35 years. Bid high and bid often. We want you to get a deal, not a steal. Write it down, Charlie Brown. Come on in, the water's fine. And my favorite, no dice, Jim Rice. So hopefully you throw some of those out. So our schools are the fabric of our community. They do a wonderful job. They actually are a huge part of what keep our real estate values high. They do a wonderful job of that. They also encourage people to live here so that they do want to do business locally. So I'm glad they were able to share all that, because I didn't know a lot of the stuff that they shared tonight. I see a couple of first responders to my left over here dressed up. I don't see any police officers, so they're not going to be able to help me with my parking ticket. But I want to say thank you. You guys did a wonderful job. You did stuff You know, first responders don't sign up for the job and they have a job qualification, but I don't think when you guys signed up it was to do birthday parades. I don't think it was to wear hazmat suits in every trip. I don't think it was that you guys had to wear all the clothes that you did every single day and then go home to your families and take your clothes off outside because you didn't know what you were carrying. I don't think we saw a lot of that, and I know we didn't have a parade for you, but you deserve it, so thank you. So yesterday I was in Ames Pond fishing with my 4-year-old, so anybody that didn't catch any fish today, we're the reason, because the fishing derby for the Lions Club was also there today. But I was looking out onto the pond, and yesterday was a special day for me because 56 years ago my family moved here from Madeira, Portugal, to give an opportunity for future generations. And thank you. And I was trying to think about what to say to you guys to talk about businesses in Easton and how we endured and how we overcame and everything else. So I went over to the Easton Historical Society to see my friend Frank Menino. If you don't know him, go see him because he knows everything about Easton. He's one of a handful of people that is dedicated and committed to keeping the history of this community alive and intact for people to know how great this town really is. And when I walked in, there was a car in the train station. There is a prototype 1899 Morse, the first Morse manufactured in the town of Easton from 1899 that was gifted to the Easton Historical Society. It's going to be at an open house, I think June 11th or 12th. And Frank talked to me and he said, this car was built in the same building that I worked with your grandfather in. See, my grandfather worked for 25 years at Brockton Tool, which is next to Hennessy Liquor Store. He was a shoe molder and a tool grinder. Called in sick one day. And it was the day to get his American citizenship. It got me thinking, how many of us think about it can't get any worse than this in our life? In business, for me, it was Y2K. Thank you, Bill Gates. I think it was his fault, right? It was 9/11, bird flu, swine flu, Ebola, the worst recession in history in 2007, 2008, 2009. We all thought it couldn't get any worse than this, right? And then COVID hit. And it was interesting, outside, when you leave tonight, on the board, there is a leader's comment. I get all my best material at the last minute. Quote from an expert, they say experience is the best teacher. Instead, it should be the failure is the best teacher. I found that the best learners are the ones who cope with the best with failure and use it as a learning tool. I'll do one better. It's when we experience failure and it's outside of our control. And that's what every business in the United States experienced on March 13th, 2020. We had vibrant businesses. Business was great. The Easton Chamber of Commerce was doing remarkably well. Our 8 volunteer board members, we had a part-time program director, Karen Newman, who's here, who just started. We were excited about the opportunity, and all of a sudden, everything stopped. I'm a public speaker as a profession. I had 39 keynotes around the country. Every single one of them canceled within 100 hours of that notification, except for one, the summer camp at this campus. That told me something. Easton's unique. We persevere. We're committed. We care. And what we found after March 13th hit and the initial shock and awe and the fact that nobody could get corned beef for St. Patty's Day or toilet paper or paper towels. You're welcome, Chris and Carrie Mills. We found out we could figure things out. We found out that Buddy's Union Villa, while they couldn't be open, Kat Callanan, the 3rd generation family member there, came up with make your own pizza at home night, where they pre-boxed the dough and you went home and you made the pizza yourself. McGuire's started curbside. I've been going to McGuire since it was sub-corral. When you called pre-COVID, the phone might get answered, and you would have a while to wait. Now they have an automated phone service, and now they have inside, outside, curbside, and Sully was doing carside 2 nights ago. Our community has just come together in so many different ways. The YMCA that I get to serve on the Board of Governors for. People were saying, well, why is daycare down? Well, because 14% of our country is unemployed. Parents are home. But what the Y needed to do was they needed to be there for all the people that needed things. And they stayed open, and they made sure that basic necessities were ready for anybody that needed it, and never turned anybody away. Inspired Technology made sure that every family that requested food for Thanksgiving ate a Thanksgiving dinner. They gave over $10,000 quietly. I had them on my podcast, and I think they were on the news during that time too, but they just did it because it was the right thing to do, because they were one of the few companies that was able to do that in a tough time. Our photographers, wedding photographers. Weddings are off. What did they do? They went to people's houses and took pictures, and then did pay it forward and gave money to food banks and to needy charities that were having a hard time. These are real stories. These are amazing stories and amazing companies that we only get to talk to 149 of them. So if you're a business owner in Easton, or you're a business owner and you live in Easton but your business isn't in Easton, we'd love to have you as 150. The slogan we have, coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. It's by Henry Ford. In our crest, it says partners in progress. I think that was pre-COVID. We've done all of this. We came together in January of 2020 as a membership in person. We stayed together through COVID, through virtual, getting back in person, helping one another, making sure that we take care of the companies. We didn't have a single business for the Chamber of Commerce that was a member prior to COVID cancel because they couldn't afford it. If you canceled because you couldn't afford it, there were anonymous donors, and there was a way that we made sure that you stayed a member, because that wasn't what we were going to do. The hard times is when people shine. That's when people remember you. And that's what our business has got to do. These are great examples. I have my friend up here, Ed Bass. I want to make sure I covered all this. Eric, the Bruins game is over. They lost. Oh, geez, you guys have been holding going to the bathroom and holding drinking and holding the Bruins score? It's like 45 minutes ago. Oh, God, a bearer of bad news. But Ed's got a very incredible story of his business. I'm going to let him share it with you, and how a great example of how a company that's been used to doing something for 90-plus years was able to pivot and stay in business and keep all of his employees and do the right things. And he's got stuff all over the place to show you. So if you want that or this, you can. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yes. Hello. Oh. So, Josh, thank you for that. I'm not a public speaker, but I'm a business owner in Easton or in Stoughton, my business is, but community member in Easton for my entire life. My brother and I, it started by my grandfather in 1928 in the middle of the Great Depression. So we've been through some things for 94 years. We've seen world wars. We've seen, like Josh was saying, all the swine flus, all these things that thought, that is going to affect businesses in some way. When COVID hit, we didn't know what was happening. Nobody knew what was happening. All these people were talking about no one knew what was going to be happening. They said that we got to shut down for 2 weeks. Okay, well, how do you do that? We didn't know. My brother and I were like, we're not shutting down. We're not going home. Well, we did. We shut down for 2 weeks. We retained all of our employees. And said, okay, what are we going to do now? Because it's kind of scary out there. We're mainly in the business for retail printing. We print for retailers. All the stores were closed, so none of our customers were buying any more of our products anymore. So we said, and I think I've heard this word before a few times, pivot. We had to pivot and figure out what to do. We started making, I've got one here, plexiglass divider stands for people. We started making those. We started making face shields. These were the first two things that we tried to do just to get by, just to keep people working in our shop. We had 40 employees that we couldn't say, you're not going to have a job anymore. So we tried and we figured it out and we worked on it and we did different things. Neil Levine at McGuire's bought a whole bunch of these, and his costumes usually had, this going on. We got into, I put up throughout the room the arrows, the one-way arrows and the social distancing circles and the, stand 6 feet apart, all that. We got into that business and started to say, okay, let's help out and do that. We donated a whole bunch of those to schools because those needed it. And then we said, okay, we'll still take your money because we needed to stay in business, so we did start getting in bid lists for other places, so we kept that going. But that's what a business, a small business like us had to do, and we worked on it. And I know there's 150, 200, 500 companies around Easton that were doing the same thing. It was tough times, and I wanted to bring everyone back to that time. I mean, the school system did that, definitely bringing everybody back to that time. It was really tough. And the chamber was there. We were, being on the board of directors with Josh, with Darcy, with Karen, with Lisa, our new program director. We persevered and we supported businesses, and we got through it. And here we are today, and we're trying not to social distance anymore. We're just being together is what we want to be. So, thank you guys.
Yeah, Ed's my guy. He does my stickers, my brochures, my pamphlets, everything else. And then if I need masks, face shields, or plexiglass, that's where I can go. I also like the one-way signs in the grocery stores. I wish they never got rid of those. I don't know if anybody else is in that field. But two last things. Something that was really amazing that I got to experience was when the community came together, the town of Easton, the Easton Chamber of Commerce, and the local businesses to form something called Easton Outside. And you probably all saw the signs, but you probably didn't know what went on behind the scenes. The town we had meetings every Tuesday for about 6 months, trying to figure out ways in which the town and the businesses could come together to try to promote and get people to understand that the town is still open. Our businesses are still open because people were struggling. And we did more than signs. We did social media. We did all sorts of campaigns, calling people, just making sure people knew that people were still working, because the news doesn't tell you that. And now we've got transitioned to that, to Discover Easton. And Dottie and team they've got an app for businesses, which is something to move forward, for people to find businesses quicker, sooner, easier. The yellow pages are gone. Facebook's going away. Well, probably not. I wish it would. Other than for Easton ECAT. Thanks, Mom, Grandma, and Amy for watching. But that was pretty powerful, because you saw people come together for the first real time with a greater good of trying to help everyone. Rising tide floats all ships. So the last thing I'll tell you is, if you're a community member, do business with local businesses anytime you can. Mrs. Peterson retired from Paperback Junction. Lisa Payon is it Lisa Payon? I think it's Lisa Payon. Greg Payon's wife bought it, another Easton resident, a bookstore. Stayed open through all this stuff. If you buy a car, they're hard to find. Go to Bourne's, go to Southeastern Motor Sales. If you want to eat, we got some of the best restaurants around. Try to stay in Easton. Try to provide as much support as you can for our local businesses, because they're doing as much as they can to support you. We appreciate everyone for doing what you've done over the last 2 years. None of us are all in the same boat, but we've all done the best that we can to row the oars. So I hope you have a great rest of your night. Nobody's gotten up to go to the bathroom or to drink. Now I'm really concerned. But I would like to say thank you to all the Stonehill workers that have been running around here effortlessly.
Thank you.
Making this night fantastic. It's been an honor to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Good job.
Which one is yours?
Hi, I am Michelle McGee. I am the Marketing Communication Chair for the Easton Lions Club, and I was told I have very few minutes, but I have to take this opportunity to mention that Ed and Josh are both great friends of the Lions Club. It is Ed's company that made your absolutely gorgeous placemats tonight, and he deals with me in the middle of the night when I'm like, I need flyers. Josh's company was the supporter at the holiday festival. He sponsored our hot chocolate station, which allows everyone to have free hot chocolate at the holiday festival. So this auction is 35 years old, and for the past 34 years, 33, because you have to discount last year, the businesses in our community have generously donated to our auction, which helps us to raise funds and in turn helps the community to do things like buy sports equipment for local Easton teams, to support places like Yardley Wood Rink, We Do Care, Julie Brennan, raise your hand, House of Possibilities, thank you so much. It allows us to provide joys at the holiday festival that are at no cost. That's what you do for the Easton Lions Club that we can turn around and help do for the community. So last year, we did not solicit donations for this auction because of the dreaded word that has the number 19 in it, and I won't say it because you've heard it enough tonight. So we were not able to have this event at all. Well, thanks to this amazing club and the more amazing volunteers in this club, we did not solicit any donations from businesses this year either. This year, we are honoring the businesses and organizations that got us through COVID. And my duty tonight is to highlight just a few of these. Now, these honorees have been instrumental this year or in years past to the success of the charitable contributions that the Easton Lions Club makes. These highlights in no way scratch the surface of the businesses and organizations that contribute to this community. This is just a small list of those who support the Lions and this town. Many others have made equal or even larger contributions, but just by beginning to recognize those who help, we open the door to being thankful and grateful to all of our community. So we would like to recognize and ask John Holbrook and Northeastern Machine Company, who are here tonight, to stand for a moment. Northeastern Machine Company manufactures, thank you. This local Easton business manufactures parts for ventilators and also supplied parts to robotic automation used in the production of the Moderna vaccine. Working on these critical projects helped buoy their staff to get to work every single day as they were deemed an essential manufacturer, and they remained open through COVID with little to no spread of infection due to their very important COVID protocols. Also here tonight, we asked Joey Wood and Bill's House of Pizza to stand for a moment, please. In December, thank you, Joe. In December, immediately following the tornado in Kentucky, Bill's reached out to the Easton Lions Club to help those in need in Kentucky. Between the proceeds from a day at the Easton Lions thrift store and an entire day's gross sales from Bill's, including employees who donated their whole day's paychecks, over $11,000 was sent directly to the Mayfield, Kentucky Lions Club. Thank you, Joe. We'd like to honor Buddy's Union Villa, who has donated pizza every week for a year to our auction for over a dozen years. The club also would like to recognize Collision Doctors, who was our initial and has remained our consistent sponsor of Easton Live, which was born out of and due to COVID. Easton Live, Shoveltown Brewery, and ECAT kept the community connected through quarantine and beyond through live music, thanks to the generous contributions of Collision Doctors and others. There are too many generous donors in this town for me to verbally name tonight. But in addition to these honorees you just heard about, we would like to mention the following for their very generous donations over the past 10 plus years. So if you are here, please stand tonight. Halverson Orthodontics for orthodontic work donated every single year. The YMCA for yearly donating family memberships. Bourne's Auto Center for their popular and coveted donations of vehicles over the past 10 plus years. The Queesit House for their yearly contribution, including this year, of an entire event rental at their lovely location. Easton Country Club for their countless rounds of golf donated. PA Narsasian for donating a dumpster rental every single year. And Stonehill for their yearly donations for classes and tuition to this fine college. Again, this is a far from comprehensive list. We are humbled by all of the generous businesses that support the Easton Lions Club and Easton. And as we enter into our final half hour, that's going to be 3 minutes long, we would like to take a special moment to thank the sponsor of this past half hour, Douglas A. King Builders. Thank you. Thanks to all our supporters.
Okay, now, we thank those guys, and we thank the business community for its presentation, and John has a treat for us.
We've been doing auctions a long time in the Easton Lions Club. Boy, have we come up with some interesting donations. I found that Chief Justin Alexander is a think outside the box kind of person. And he's come up with a doozy. Easton Fire Department is offering for auction to this room only the following. You and 2 friends, this is really geared towards our kids, because the concept is as follows. An Easton fire apparatus of your choice will pick you up at your home. We'll pick up 2 friends at their homes. We'll take you to breakfast with the chief. And then we'll take you to school. So I know Jim Abadi's thinking, oh, wow, that'd be cool. I can think just like in the movie Roxanne, when the ladder was up and they're driving around town, that'd be neat. No, it's not quite that, but it is riding around town in an Easton fire apparatus, picking up a couple of friends, grabbing some breakfast, and showing up in school. Now that is styling. Let's get this thing started. I want $300 out of this room right now for this event. $300, me out here, $300 from the room, please. We have a bid of $300. Thank you so very, very much. Someone appreciates the rarity and the pricelessness of this wonderful donation. We have a $300 bid on the floor of this room. Who will give me $350? $350 from the room, please. Mr. Craig Barger. I didn't see the hat on. I didn't know. It was $350. Craig Barger, thank you very much for the $350 bid. That's going to be a lot of fun. $350 bid. Are we going to let Craig have that for $350? I don't think so. Who will give me $400 for this remarkable, thank you very much for that $400 bid. We have a $400 bid on the floor for this remarkable fire truck extravaganza. Did I mention that it includes breakfast with Jason Alexander? $400? Do I hear $450 from the room? Who will give me $450 to pick up you and a couple of friends and take a ride to school that everybody will be talking about for a long, long time? Do I hear $450 in the room? I'll take a $425 bid from the room. $425? We have a $400 bid in the room. Well, I think I have an enticement for the room.
Michelle just told me that there are 4 ice cream cones to Hilliard's for 4 people included in this, which means the 3 people who win plus the fireman of your choice. So here are the 4 certificates. That's got to be worth another $100, guys.
I like that very, very much. Breakfast and ice cream in a fire truck with Chief Jason Alexander. Do I hear $450 for this extravaganza?
Nobody likes Hilliard's?
I know that's not true. Well, we've sweetened the pot. It's the fire truck ride, breakfast with the chief, and Hilliard's ice cream cones. $400 is the high bid. Are we all satisfied? Are we all in? $400 going once. $400 going twice. Sold. Thank you so much for $400 bid on that. Thank you.
And now, a presentation from the Town of Easton administration. So let me turn things over to Dottie Fulginetti, the chair of our select board, and Connor Reed is going to help out. The question is, what did the town do when everything shut down to keep things open? This half hour of our program is sponsored by the Avalon Apartments. You're up.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having us here tonight. We have the last moment when everybody's tired and wants to go home, so we're going to try to make this fun and brief, but not as fun as Josh Beach. So we appreciate the Lions for organizing this event, and as we reflect on the difficult and historic years that we've come through together, I speak for the Select Board and the entire town of Easton when I say that we appreciate everything that you've all done to help our community. The COVID-19 pandemic has been one of the most destabilizing global phenomena in a century, and the worst public health crisis since the 1918 flu pandemic. No aspect of our lives was left untouched, whether it was education, business, family, community, jobs, and the stories we've heard tonight reaffirm this. The secret to the success of how we got through this is communication, strong leadership, and collaboration. The last week of February 2020, I was on vacation with my family down in Mexico. There were reports in other parts of the world that people were getting sick from a virus that was headed our way. There was no talk of masks, but there was advice to bring Clorox wipes on the plane and wipe down your tray and your seatbelt. For this vacation, I decided I'd totally unplug. No TV, no social media, no email, no work. So imagine my surprise when I'm sitting on the beach in Mexico and I get a call from Connor telling me that we need to close the town offices and the schools. I had no idea what was going on. The virus had made it to Easton. It was surreal. Leaving the country to get back to the US, it was pandemonium in the airport. People didn't think we'd be able to get back home, and I thought that was the scary part. It would be impossible for us to cover all the aspects of the town's response to the pandemic tonight, but we're going to touch on the economic shutdown and the reopening. Josh talked about the Easton Outside campaign that supported our businesses and the amazing vaccine campaign that moved us out of the darkest chapter of the pandemic. I also want to recognize the hardships borne by so many businesses and families tonight that are here tonight and watching at home. Whether through economic loss and hardship, ceremonies missed, milestones delayed, these have been a very difficult few years for everyone. I say that to remind us of the commonalities that we all share and to segue to what the town of Easton did in those years to help us do our part to get through. Whether it was in the pandemic riding in the back of an ambulance comforting and holding the hand of a sick patient, or a poll worker doing their part to protect our right to vote, or a health agent doing contact tracing, or an inspector making sure we quickly approved businesses to move outdoors and keep them moving. The town was guided by the simple principle, help people. You may not know that in addition to my role as chair of the select board, I work as a regional economic recovery planner, and I've worked all around Massachusetts in that capacity. This gives me a great chance to see what other towns are doing, and more often than not, hear how other communities watched what we were doing and followed our lead. We're lucky to have department heads and staff who are the envy of our neighboring communities around the Commonwealth, who go the extra mile to help people. They're motivated to serve and to be excellent for the public good. I want to introduce the following short video of one of those people, Easton Fire Captain and Public Health Officer Tim Vamosi.
Early March, the town shuts down, but the needs in terms of emergency responses, for fire department trucks to get out and put out fires and help people, those remain the same. How do you manage that during a pandemic while you're trying to get PPE equipment and some of your people have COVID? How do you do this? Tell us what you did.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I got to say the answer to it is teamwork. The fire calls got met, the police calls got met, the infection control needs were met. It was a lot of people doing a lot of things and a lot of long hours to make it happen. So during the pandemic, initially what we saw, because everybody was staying home, we saw a drop in calls, and that was because there weren't motor vehicle accidents to respond to because there was no motor vehicles on the road. But we also saw an increase in the severity of our calls. As the waves of COVID kind of came through, as everybody experienced, so did the call volume. So the call volume started to increase incrementally with the amount of people that were ill with COVID, and then the flow would ebb and flow just along that same wave. It all started with training. A lot of our guys had to take on some training in advanced PPE or personal protective equipment. And again, we were learning about the disease as we were going. I think over the past year, 2 years, we've gone through about 24,000 masks to maintain the levels that we needed for our 911 calls, our testing sites, and our vaccine clinics, which is quite a lot of PPE. And that's not including gloves and gowns and eyewear and boots and everything that goes along with that as well.
I'm thinking about 24,000 masks just in our small town. That's a tremendous volume.
It sure is, it sure is. And then trying to acquire those was a full-time job for a lot of people as well, because it was a limited supply as the whole entire globe was trying to acquire materials to stay safe. So the vaccination effort, again, was a combined effort of a lot of people. We were able to partner with Director Kristin Kennedy of the Board of Health and her staff, the town administration, and again, just a lot of people, school departments to utilize buildings. So we again, knocked our heads together as a team to figure out how we can provide the best services to the community and stay safe at the same time. So we acquired our vaccination medications through the state, but we also had to retrain how we do things. As first responders, we're very good at doing a lot of emergency medications, and we're very highly trained as paramedics. But we had to kind of switch gears from the emergency response to a clinical setting, where now we were processing patients in mass numbers through a fixed site, which is a little bit different than we're used to, giving our medications at 60 miles an hour down the road. So a little bit of a change for us. So again, it started with training. We acquired a community EMS license from the state proactively, and in which we were able to then have permission to get all of our paramedics trained as vaccinators and testing administrators. And then we put them into fixed sites and started getting the public through those sites as quickly, efficiently, and safely as possible.
I think you told me that you, as the town, vaccinated about 10% of Easton's residents during the pandemic.
That's correct. Yeah, it was about 10%. And when you look at that number, it seems a little bit small, but that's in coordination with state sites, patients, primary care physicians, our local pharmacies. Again, the effort was massive. We were just very fortunate to be a part of it.
What's the one thing that you're most proud of when you look back at that whole effort?
Again, I have to go back to the word teamwork. I've said it many times during the interview, and I think that's probably the most outstanding part of what happened. A pandemic hit, and a lot of people had to kind of move outside of the norm to make things happen, not just on the government side, but on the community side as well. The town approached this as employees with a strong foot forward, and we're looking to really collaborate amongst each other to take on a huge challenge. And we couldn't have done that without the support and backing of our community as well. The teamwork that let everybody work in concert with each other, from town administration to emergency services to school departments to Board of Health, is only made possible because of the support that we received from the community to make that happen. So teamwork was the one thing that was probably the most valuable and important lesson that we learned through this, and one that we anticipate carrying on to the future. It was a great springboard to address future challenges as a community, whether it be preventative medicine through our new community EMS systems, through our Board of Health, through our school departments, but all of us communicating and working together really showed that we can take on these massive challenges as a team.
I got to tell you, as a member of the Lions Club and a member of the Easton community, listening to you talk, I am tremendously impressed and proud and delighted that you work for us, for the town, and that people like you are running the other departments in the town. It makes me feel really good about living here.
No, thank you very much. And it's one of the things. I live here, I work here, I raise my family here, and it's a great community. And I'm very privileged to be a part of a team that just constantly works to make that better.
So Captain Bamosi is over there sitting with Fire Chief Alexander and Deputy Chief Carroll. So thank you so much for being superstars. The next brief video highlights another person who I've worked with for many years in lots of capacities. She really just exemplified the old adage, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Our Director of Health and Community Services, Kristin Kennedy. She, like health directors and professionals around the country, was thrust into the surreal role of ordering quarantines, coordinating policy from masking to how on earth do we run a town meeting in a pandemic. She showed up, did what was necessary, and she never shied away from what had to be done.
Tell us how you figured out what to do in March of 2020.
I think part of the answer to that question goes back before March of 2020, and the fact that the town leadership back in 2015 had the forethought to form a department called Health and Community Services. We were able to know where our vulnerable people were, who they were, what they might need. It also allowed us to respond to some of those challenges in very grassrooted ways. We were able to start a friendly caller program amongst our seniors. We were able to deliver food and deliver testing and deliver vaccines to our vulnerable populations in the housing authority, in our group homes. We had already established a list and contacts. So we had been able to do a lot of the background work. Those relationships that we have had with other town departments, with the fire chief, with the police department, with the school department, put us in a unique position to already have a good foundation to work off of. As I said, our response, I think, went back before March. In February, we were actually already convening around the table. We were meeting, believe it or not, in person at Town Hall, filling a meeting room. We had Stonehill College there, we had the school department there, we had the housing authority there, and the usuals, the health department, police, fire, and we were all talking about what we were going to need to do.
How much did you know about COVID when this started?
Very little, and I think that was one of the biggest personal challenges, and I think it was a challenge for everyone, was accepting that we didn't have the answers and admitting that we didn't have the answers And as uncomfortable as that may be, I think a lot of the community felt reassured by the fact that we didn't pretend to have the answers, but we did establish quickly that we were going to try to get the answers and that we were going to try to be the place that our community could come to get answers as they became available. We quickly stood up a dedicated web page. We stood up a dedicated email address. We stood up a dedicated phone line that was staffed by Health and Community Services. And by that, there were times that those phones were being answered by somebody who's assigned to the Recreation Department or who might have been driving the shuttle bus. But they were there to pick up the phone and reassure the community that we were working on getting answers and working on getting resources out to them. It was scary. We responded knowing our population and basically put 6 staff on the phones just taking phone calls. We'll add you to the list. We'll call you back when we have something.
When you look at this now, a bit of hindsight, because we're now hopefully finished with the pandemic, what are the 1 or 2 things that make you most proud of the way you and your team worked?
I think the fact that there was nothing too big. And I think the fact that we were all in it together. Whether it was myself, the town administrator, and the fire chief on the phone at 9 o'clock at night, big part of it was never feeling alone. I feel very proud of the team that I was able to work with and the things that we were able to accomplish.
And the message that you're putting out today is that that's true, that we are really a community working together toward our common goals. And it sounds to me like the story that you're telling is really inspirational. And I'm delighted to hear it from you.
We tried. We really, really tried.
So those are just 2 of the people that really made things happen, but the person who really orchestrated it all is going to come up and say a few words next, and that's our town administrator, Connor Reed.
Thank you, Dottie. How many people here enjoy calling their boss when they're on vacation? I think it might have been a weekend. And you know that they're on a beach enjoying themselves. None. But Dottie picked up, and Dottie always picks up. I didn't prepare to say this, but Dottie has been here, and I've worked with Dottie my entire career, going back to 2013. And I can't think of anyone who cares more about the community, who puts in more volunteer hours and has the back of administration and staff, of the schools, and of the businesses more than Dottie. So thank you, Dottie. And speaking of volunteers, thank you to the Lions for giving us a platform tonight to do something that I know internally we do not do enough, and I'm sure is true. There's probably a lot of type A's in this room, which is to pause and reflect. To start, the first thing I want to do is to recognize that we're celebrating Easton, but really to say thank you. The folks we've heard from tonight, the men and women you've heard from, have extraordinary jobs and during all times, including before COVID. They drive our local economy. They educate and feed our children. They inspect buildings and food to make sure that the places we go and the things that we eat are safe. And they respond on some of the hardest days of our lives when we call 911, and they send people to help. So these folks are extraordinary before the pandemic, and if there was any doubt about that, then the pandemic really showed how true that was. So I'd just like to recognize our educators, our first responders, our community members, and businesses in the room tonight. So to try to prompt Dottie and I, Easton Lion Gary Fraden gave us the prompt. What was it like being in the room when the town had to close down? And I'll be honest that for many of us, we haven't really stopped moving long enough to take stock of that and to think about it. We've been trying to just keep one foot in front of the other, respond to the newest variant, run a new vaccine clinic, shift and pivot, a word we've heard a lot tonight, to respond to policies that we, even in the local government and school system, would learn about at the same time you did, which was usually on TV. And half of the time, we would also learn that we were responsible for implementing it. So in those early days, in March 2020, all of us, of course, like everyone in this room, we were keeping an eye on the news and seeing the startling images coming from overseas in China and Italy of lines wrapped around blocks, folks wearing makeshift hazmat attire. But it was also my favorite season, which is budget season. And so we had to continue doing our jobs, our normal day-to-day jobs. And it was March 10th specifically, and my calendar was overbooked. And by happenstance, I had the superintendent, the health director, and the fire chief in my office. And we were ostensibly there to talk about long-range revenue forecasting, which I will save for you for 2 nights from now at town meeting. And we were having a very hard time focusing because we could tell the world was shifting under our feet. And a colleague came into my office and said that we needed to turn on the TV because the governor had called a press conference. Now, I don't know if March 10th sticks out to everyone in this room like it does for me, but that was the press conference at which the governor declared a state of emergency and announced what would be the beginning of the economic shutdown in Massachusetts. And I remember very vividly the 4 of us standing there quietly, listening as we struggled to digest the magnitude of not just what this would mean for us as public leaders and for our teams on the front line, but as parents, as moms and dads, as husbands and wives, and just normal people who were scared too. We started the bones of an emergency response agenda that afternoon and worked on that until about 1 in the morning. And when I was alone, I turned to the fire chief, Kevin Partridge at the time, and I told him the truth that I trust everyone in here, if we're being honest, shares, which is that I was scared. I was scared not just of what COVID would mean for our employees and for the community, but I was scared for my own family. And at that time, my then 14-month-old daughter, who we couldn't get formula or diapers for, like anyone else, because of the panic buying that was going on. The chief confided in me that he was scared too, as we all were, and we turned that concern for our communities, for our teams, for our staff, and for our own families, and we turned it and put that into the work. And we all met, again, in person, because this was before we knew. The next morning at DPW, every single town department, the schools, our public health nurse, everyone was there for us to establish what we knew about COVID, the extraordinary amount that we did not know about COVID, and what our responsibilities would be and how on earth we would continue, in some cases, 24/7 operations, no matter what was going on. The next day, on one of the innumerable, I can't believe I'm having this discussions with Superintendent Cabral, we were trying to walk through how on earth it could be possible to pivot local government and education to a remote platform within days. I'm sure we all know that government is not famous for moving fast, but somehow we did it. And less than 3 days after the state of emergency was declared, we made those calls. And something that rang true throughout the pandemic, we made them sooner and usually without guidance than we were given from the state. By that Monday, schools had closed, our office buildings had closed, we pivoted our workforce that could to remote work, and at the same time we're crafting protocols, including with many of the men sitting at the table up here, for how we were going to keep 24/7 operations of fire, EMS, police dispatch, along with DPW, inspections, and health operating. Again, this is before you could get a test, you couldn't get masks. We worked with our teams in locally established guaranteed paid leave for any first responder who fell ill. We worked with Stonehill College to establish first responder quarantine housing so that, especially in those early days when we didn't know so much about the virus, that if a first responder fell ill, they did not have to make the choice to bring it home to their family. We established uniform mask requirements across all of our divisions. We guaranteed out-of-pocket medical coverage. Again, this was before CARES, Families First, paid leave. And we did that because we knew we had to, and that there was no smaller government below us that we could punt that decision to. And so looking back, I think that we collectively made a few decisions that proved critical very early on. The first is that we took this gravely seriously right out of the gate. I'm sure all of you in your relative industries have email chains where folks are sharing what's going on in the news, and I'm sure like some of us, you had colleagues who were not overly concerned about how real this would be, how serious this could be, how destabilizing this could be in February and March. And I'm very thankful that that was not the tone in Easton. We knew that because we are the smallest and ground level government, that we have to make decisions, or in many cases early on, they won't get made. And we knew that, like the local businesses who had essential workers, and thank you so much, our entire operations were essential workers. Water still needs to come out of your sink when you turn it on, whether there's a pandemic happening or not. The second thing that we did is that we prioritized sharing what we knew with the public when we knew it, including admitting that we don't have the answer and that at times we knew very little. It was kind of the golden rule. We were internally frustrated, just as we all were as citizens, with the lack of information in the early days, particularly out of the federal government, and we really took that to heart, and we didn't want to, wherever possible, recreate that feeling of being in the dark, recreate that fear. And so we made calls that at the time were unprecedented. Before COVID, it was against typical state public health protocol to acknowledge that a communicable illness was in your town. And we did because we felt that people in Easton deserved to know that this was real, that it was here, and not to wait for permission to make that decision. The third thing is that we tried our best just to be empathetic. We had to make decisions almost exclusively with less time and far less information than we are trained and comfortable with doing. And we really took to heart how would we feel if this decision was made on our behalf? How would we feel if this decision was made for our children? And then finally, something we heard so much tonight is teamwork. We worked as a team with a singular and unified mission to help people, regardless of our background, our training, our division, what we wear to work, what our rank was. And that constant team-based contact, public safety, public works, health, the schools, our business community, it continued for literally years. And over those years, we saw folks flex and bend in ways which we never would have thought possible before COVID. We saw remote schooling, sidewalk library services, vote by mail, distance voting, town meetings in a pandemic, birthday parades for kids who had milestones taken from them. We had distanced Toys for Tot drives, drive-through test clinics, drive-through vaccine distribution. When we had folks who couldn't get to Gillette, we built a vaccine station in Easton. And when we had folks who still couldn't make it there, we had members of our staff, including Captain Mimosi, drive to their home and get them a vaccine in their living room. We also saw the continuity of some operations that just couldn't stop. 911 calls, snow removal, road paving, sewer construction, building inspections, law enforcement. All these things had to continue, and they did, and we had an excellent team to do it. So in thinking back to Gary's question of what was it like being in those rooms, I know Dottie and I both agree when we say that it's been an honor and it's been humbling to be part of such an incredible team. There was no magic, there were no shortcuts. To the extent we succeeded, we did it together, and we did it because we had people willing to work long hours, 7 days a week for months on end, and to channel their very real and human fears for themselves, for their safety, for their own families, and still show up and still do the work. And so I'm so thankful to all of our public servants here in Easton and everyone that's here tonight and the community for your support. I'm happy to turn it over to Dottie to close us out and take us home. Thank you.
So while we take joy in being together in person tonight, we must acknowledge that there are some who can't be here to celebrate with us. Since March of 2020, more than 60 residents of Easton lost their lives to COVID-19. Countless families from our community lost a loved one during this time. Each member of our select board also lost someone that we loved, including close family members. Some were not able to say their goodbyes in their final days or share their grief with family and friends at traditional burial services. Please keep those people in your hearts and memories when you look back at this period of time, and know that they are not forgotten. I want to thank all of the employees across the board. Everyone stepped up and did their part to help people, starting with Connor Reed, Assistant Town Administrator Michael Blanchard, and Elizabeth Hegg in the Select Board office. Police, fire, DPW, health staff, planning staff, inspectional staff, accounting staff, and all the dedicated employees at the town offices in Frothingham. Teachers, administrators, custodians, we're very proud and grateful for their work. I'd also like to thank my elected colleagues on the School Committee and Board of Health, as well as members of the Planning Board and Economic Development Council for their critical roles. And finally, I want to express my sincere gratitude to my fellow Select Board members, Craig Barger, Mark Lamb, Jennifer Stacy, and Jamie Stebbins. They've done an amazing job. Having a strong leadership team is critical in a time of crisis, especially when decisions need to be made quickly. I will speak for the whole board when I say that we are honored and humbled to serve this community, and we just really appreciate all the support that we've gotten from you. We've gotten letters, we've gotten emails, we've gotten comments, and it really means a lot to us. And if you like this tonight and you want more of it, come to town meeting Monday night at 7 o'clock at Oliver Ames High School.
Thanks, guys. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. John, final auction item tonight.
So what he's saying is I'm the only thing that stands between you and those exit doors or the bar. A lot of self-employed people in this room. When you're self-employed, you still work for somebody. Show of hands, who here works for somebody? Okay. How would you like to be the chief executive officer for a day? Right those wrongs, a little revenge. Just thinking, just saying. So think about this. How would you like to be the chief executive officer of the Easton Police Department? Ooh. Well, we've got a unique offering here. Officer Keith Boone has come up with a very creative opportunity for us to be the chief of police of the Easton Police Department. 3 divisions, 45 officers and civilian employees. You'd run the place for the day. You can't rename the town. Come on, don't get silly, but you can be the chief of police for a day. That's got to be worth $300. Give me $300 right now to be the chief of police of Easton, Massachusetts for a day. Do I hear an opening bid of $300 for this wonderful opportunity? Suzanne Bump. I knew you were a climber. Look at that going. Chief of Police. All right, Suzanne. Thank you very much for that offer. We have an offer of $300 on the floor to be Chief of Police of Easton, Massachusetts for a day. Do I hear $350 for this unique opportunity? $350 from the room, please, to be Chief of Police of the Easton Police Department for a day. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, folks. Hearing $300 going once. $300 going twice. Fred Ames is offering what, sir? $350. Thank you, Fred Ames. That Police Chief Fred Ames, that is. We have an I bid of $350 on the floor for Mr. Ames, who will give me $400 to keep Fred Ames from being the Police Chief of Easton, Massachusetts for a day. $325. Oh, come on. Somebody give me $350. $350. Suzanne is a smart person. She understands that that's a very wise bid. $350. Thank you, Suzanne. $350 to be the Chief of Police in Eastern Massachusetts for the day. We have a high bid of $350 on the floor. Do I hear $375? $375. We're all set. You're all satisfied. $350 going once. $350 going twice. Sold to Chief Suzanne Bump. $350. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Congratulations, Chief. We are at the end. We have a silent auction, last opportunity to bid on the 3 prints in the back, the art in the back. We're closing the silent auction shortly. People who have won auction items, the online auction, you can get your certificates over in the far corner. There's a printer hooked up, they tell me. Thanks to everyone who presented. Thanks to everybody who got the town through COVID. Thanks to you guys for coming here and listening to the stories. I hope you appreciated it. And on that note, we invite everybody to come back next year when we have our 3rd annual celebration of Easton. Good night. Thank you very much.